Good morning. Hope you're having a good day today. Today we have a little bit of a shorter verse for you. Proverbs chapter 12, if you will. Proverbs chapter number 12. We're going to be looking here at verse number 18. Proverbs 12, verse 18. Notice what the Bible says. There is that speaketh like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is health. Notice that. There is that speaketh like the piercing of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is health. Here we have a similar principle in two halves of this verse, but they contrast each other. You have two separate sides. Again, so you have, there is that speaketh like the piercing of a sword. In other words, something that does a lot of damage. But the tongue of the wise is health. So something that helps, the opposite of damage. Now notice here, there is that speaketh like the piercing of a sword. Both of these, speaketh and tongue, both of these involve someone speaking. In other words, what we see here is our tongue, our language, the words we choose to say, they can be used for good and evil. And if you go back a few days ago, if you missed that video, we talked about the importance of being quick or swift to hear and slow to speak. The reason is because no damage is going to be done by listening to something, but damage will be done when we start speaking. So we need to make sure when we speak, we are not doing damage, but we are doing help. We should never want to damage. And by the way, even when you debate someone, even when you argue with someone, which by the way, I typically just totally avoid those situations. But every now and then somebody always wants to debate, or they always want to throw around Bible questions and why do you believe this, X, Y, Z. If I respond to those, I never respond. My heart is never a gotcha. My heart is never, I'm right, you're wrong. If I'm going to respond to those, I want them to see the truth. I want them to see the light. I want to be a help to them. Now, when someone asks that question, when someone asks any kind of question in a debate type way, we all know I can respond in a way that's helpful, or I could respond with the exact same information in a way that hurts. And notice again, there is that speaketh like the piercing of a sword. There's that old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That is a lie. That is a lie. The amount of divorces that happen by words that were said, the amount of family drama that happens by words that were said, the amount of relationships that are strained by words that were said, the amount of times there's fights that break out because words that are said, the amount of murders and homicides because words were said. Words can do a tremendous amount of damage. Some of our biggest memories are when somebody said something they should not have said. And by the way, sometimes, I think we all have people like this in our life. Somebody 5, 10, 20 years ago said something they should not have said, and still today, we don't talk to that person. Because they said something, it offended us, we didn't take it the right way, whatever it is. Because of what they said, we don't talk to them. We keep our distance, we don't trust them, whatever it is. And obviously we should be forgiving them stuff, but we have human nature. That doesn't always happen. So very simply, when we see this, words can do a lot of damage. It can pierce like a sword, the Bible says. So in other words, we need to be very careful. Because, I can still go back and remember, even in my child years and teenage years and young adult years, I can remember times when people were just outright rude. It kind of stays with you. But do you know what else I also remember? I remember when times the second part of this verse, but the tongue of the wise is health. I've been in some tough times in life. I've gone through some very deep valleys at different times. But every now and then God will send somebody in my way to say just the right thing. They'll send somebody to encourage me, or I'll go to a conference revival and the preacher will say something. I'll just get my mind thinking and it kind of solve a lot of the problems I'm having. Because there's a big difference. Words can hurt like a sword, or they can heal. We need to make sure as God's people, we strive to be the heal side of that. We try to be the healers. And I'm not talking about a signed gift, so don't go too crazy on me. But you know what I'm saying is we need to make sure when we speak We speak in a way that helps. We speak with that goal and the desire to be a help to somebody. If somebody was to get mad and upset and curse and throw stuff, they can do that. But you don't have to. You don't have to respond that way. Our goal is to help. Every now and then, when we go door knocking, and by every now and then I mean every single week this happens, we'll always get at least one person that'll open the door, and they're mad that we're there. They're mad that we exist, and they're just having a bad day. We had a guy 2 weeks ago. I'll tell you this. We had a guy 2 weeks ago. I was with a man in our church, and I also had my daughter with us. And my daughter rang the doorbell, and she had a little tract ready. Now, granted, she's 6 years old. And she had a tract. She was ready to give it to this man and invite him to church. And it was probably 20 seconds or so went by, and she rang the doorbell again. Usually we ring it twice or so, and then we'll go about our way. And as soon as he rang it the second time, this old grumpy man opened the door, and he was livid. He was so mad. And he said, how dare y'all ring my doorbell twice? Give me a chance to get there. He was mad. And he was mad from the second he woke up, I'm pretty sure. And so I was just started laughing a little bit. I said, okay, so just so you know, my daughter is the one that rang it. And I'm pointing at a little 6-year-old girl. So my daughter is the one that rang it. And she didn't mean to. She was just, she's just trying to get someone to answer the door so she can give him an invite to church. And he instantly started kind of acting like he wasn't really that mad. Maybe he was joking. And until he got the invite to church, and he slammed the door and said, "Have a good day." But that's somebody. They're just an angry person, or they're having a bad day, whatever it is. But my goal in that situation is not to make it worse. I could easily argue. I've been with people who snap back and argue and say something smart. I'm not trying to win anything here. I'm trying to help you. I want to help you. And if I can't help you today, like I couldn't help that man that day, I want to make sure I leave the door open and I leave a good, positive memory of me, that even though you reacted poorly and you were upset and you were mad, I just smiled and said, "I hope you have a good day today." That way, if a few weeks from now pass and he's having a bad day and he's seeking answers, he knows I wasn't a jerk to him. The words that I said, they didn't pierce like a sword. I tried to have words that would calm him down, to help him, to work with him. But again, we got to strive to do that in our lives. When we go to work and we deal with family, we got to get out of the mindset of, well, I have to win. I have to win this argument. I have to be on top. You don't always have to. Sometimes you can know you're right and not say anything. You can let them, it's okay. And you can make sure when the time is right, you say what needs to be said in a way that helps. You can't control their reaction. You can't control how it works out. But we can control what we say, how we say it, and when we say it. And by the way, those are some big things. What you say is big, how you say it is big, and when you say it is big. We got to make sure those three line up. And when those three line up, you'll typically get much better results. We can't control the results, but we can mitigate the problems that we do on our end. But again, there is that speaketh like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is hell. So again, here is my goal for you today. Very simple. Before you speak, do two things. Think, is this what God would have me do? Is this the right thing? Does this line up with the Bible? Think and listen. Don't react. Don't get upset. Think and listen. Then when it's time, know what to say and how to say it. If you do that, you'll be careful and you're going to do a lot less hurting. You're going to do a lot less piercing like a sword. And again, we talked about this a few days ago. Somebody says, well, that's just who I am. Then change who you are. Who you are is not good. Change who you are. It's okay to change. The day you got saved, a lot should have changed. Keep changing. You're not there yet. But I hope this is a help to you. As always, subscribe to the channel if you'd like to stay on top of these daily devotionals. I hope you have a good day today, and God bless.